Artlist.io.
Hello. Oh, we started out laughing. Welcome to Rainbow Dreamcatcher,
The Love Podcast.
I'm Nilla, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and relationship coach. And I travel the world helping people to learn the skills they need to have a happy and healthy relationship.
And I'm Big Sexy, her loving husband and co-host, here to provide
brevity. I think it's the rolling R I like.
Yes,
brevity.
Yeah, that's why we like that. We land on that word is rolling R's.
Rolling R's.
Brevity.
Welcome.
Welcome. So what are we talking about today?
So today, as opposed to how to build relationships, I think it's important also to figure out the things that we can learn from the ending of relationships. So today we're going to talk about breakups. Not the best topic. Can be very painful. I think like a lot of people, I have had painful breakups. I surmise from some of the things you've told me that you have had painful breakups.
Oh yes, indeed.
And I guess this topic came to me because, this was something I used to say to myself. And for folks that are not aware, this partnership is my second long-term committed partnership. My first committed partnership lasted for about a decade. And that was not a happy relationship. I learned a lot of lessons from that. But when I first came out of that relationship, I couldn't shake the feeling, this almost like guilty feeling that I had wasted so much of my time, right?
Especially if it's been a decade.
A whole decade, y'all, in something that, for a good chunk of that decade was not a good relationship. But I have come to some different understandings about that relationship in particular. Not that it was good, but I've stopped telling myself and other people that relationship was a waste of time. One, I think having sat with folks now for almost a decade as a relationship coach and therapist, I've really come to recognize that like very few relationships are actually a waste of time. That they are present in our lives, and sometimes we don't want them to be present in our lives. But that, like a lot of things that we go through, we learn through suffering, right?
Right.
And that includes relationships that we unfortunately have to suffer through. So today I thought we'd just talk about the things that we can learn when we stop thinking about our previous relationships as a waste of time and start thinking about them as a place of learning and growth.
Okay.
So I guess first I want to ask you about some of those painful breakups. I mean, as we started, we said like, oh, this is going to be kind of a personal, this might be a more personal.
Dig right in, okay?
We jumping right into it, y'all. So yeah, I'm curious for you, and this is just for my information also.
Okay.
What was your most painful breakup and what made it so painful?
My most painful breakup.
Mm-hmm. What was the one that's just, in the heart? Okay. It got me.
Well, I think the last breakup before us.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
May have been one of the most difficult that I went through.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it wasn't so much of the breakup. I think that I was, again, later in life.
Later in life. First, how long was the relationship?
Not long.
Okay.
Before you, none of my relationships lasted longer than a year.
Okay, right. I recall that. Mm-hmm.
And this was not one of the 1 year ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this one was at the point when I was feeling like this might be the last opportunity I get.
Oh.
Right? So I gotta.
So you were feeling pressure.
Gotta figure out how to make this work,
mm-hmm.
And put and plus you go through enough breakups, you start going, well, the common denominator of these breakups is me.
Mm-hmm.
So what's wrong with me?
Oh, no.
You start that question, and then you think you're in a relationship and it's going well and you're really happy, but then there is unhappiness, and it was a very, very difficult time, which is funny because that's why when we met, when everybody's like, "Oh, was it love at first sight when you guys met?" And we're both like, "No,
no."
And because neither one of us were in the mindset of we were going to have a relationship, right?
No, I was not in a good headspace.
And so that one was pretty tough, and which is what set me down the path to thinking that, okay, I'm gonna just be single. That's just it. I'm gonna be single for the rest of my life. I've given it a bunch of shots. Each one seemed to hurt more than the last.
Yeah.
And I was on, no, I'm good. I think I'm good on that. I'm a very nurturing, loving, caring person, but I'm also a very vulnerable person. I put my, heart out there and whatever. And when they have that kind of vulnerability, when it doesn't work out, it gets harder and harder to put that out there. And but when you do put out there, you get hurt again. That vicious cycle keeps going.
Right.
Plus, the nature of the breakup was pretty hard.
Yeah.
I was broken up with on my birthday.
Oh, ouch.
Like on my birthday.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so that
hurts.
That wasn't great.
Yeah,
that wasn't great at all.
Milestone. Yeah. No. Oh, boo. Sorry. Sorry that happened.
Although part of me, the optimist in me goes, well, it was balanced because me, I love my birthdays.
That's true.
It's hard to bring me down on my birthday. So I guess if you got to pick a day to kick me kick me when I'm highest.
Kick me when I'm up.
Kick me when I'm up. Don't kick me when I'm down.
That sounds
kick me
terrible.
when I'm way up.
Y'all don't kick me.
Just don't kick me. Just don't kick me. It'd be cool. You just don't kick me. But
So what do you think you learned from that really painful breakup, if anything? Like, have you gone through
I learned the importance of me being me and finding someone who will allow me to be me.
Okay.
I'm Popeye. I am who I am, and I have my likes and dislikes and things of that nature. And I would need to find somebody who was okay with that.
Oh man, I'm wishing you such good luck on that.
Yeah, thanks.
I hope you find what you're
looking for.
One day.
One day it'll happen. Hopefully. But that was the biggest lesson that came out of that.
Yeah.
That breakup. That and I always had a romanticized view of relationships. And you start to learn they're much more nuanced.
Yeah.
And real.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And tough. You start, having to have these kind of questions and asking yourself these kind of questions and you got to answer it.
Yeah.
And see if you're okay with the answer.
Yeah.
So a lot of more introspective work post that relationship as well.
Yeah, no, I think that the key to what you said there was that introspective work. I was a serial monogamist, right? So I would be in. Well, I guess that's not accurate. I was a serial long-term committed partnershipist.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
That does.
Going through breakups and particularly divorce, which is a specific kind of breakup
that sounds way more worse.
Well, I don't know if it's worse, but it is painful. And the thing about divorce is that not only is it painful, but it's really lonely. In that, it's almost like the only thing I can compare it to is like if someone dies, but that person is still running around in the world, like enjoying their life. You know what I mean? Like it really does feel like that, right? And you have the same kind of like grieving and loss and hurt and pain and loneliness. But the people that recognized that it wasn't a good relationship wanted to celebrate, and I was not celebratory. I was not happy about it. Even though I think I kind of felt like I had to have an outward showing that like, yay, this is finally over. And there was still a part of that.
Did you have a divorce party?
I did not have a divorce party.
Did your friends try to throw you a divorce party?
They did not try to throw me a divorce party. My divorce was really complicated and difficult and very messy. Yeah. And like, I didn't get the kind of like, I guess when it ended, it really ended, but it was an extended kind of difficult road to get to ending.
Right. I've DJ'd a divorce party.
Oh, what'd you think about the celebrations? What were your thoughts about it?
I found it gross.
Gross in what sense?
It's weird to call people having a good time and having a lot of fun, and I'm a good DJ, so I did the party well. But it felt weird for people to be celebrating the loss of something. Yeah, that's not like a wake. Yeah, right. Like I understand the party and the wake atmospheres. I get that, right? But I think a lot to what the topic is, right? I think that I used to have to think, the thought that you spend all this time with this person and all that's gone, and you seem happy about that. And I understand what they're I understand what they're celebrating. I just feel like to have a party for it. Yeah. It doesn't seem like an event to have a party for.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, the way I look at that is that it's a reclaiming, right? Because like I think when there are stages to divorce, just like there are stages to grief, and they kind of mirror the stages to grief. The challenge is that there's a legal process that goes along with the grieving, right? Which sometimes happens with grief. Like, we lose parents. There's a legal process that takes place around like money and division, all that kind of stuff. But for a lot of folks, you don't have an entire legal process that is adversarial that goes along with grieving. Right. Right.
Unless you got mean siblings.
Which, maybe. Anyway, there are a lot of parallels to divorce and death. Yeah. Right. So, and it is a death, and there is a loss, right? Like you lose the relationship, you lose the engagement with the person. Right. You lose often other relationships that are centered around that person. Folks will often, you lose family, in a lot of ways. Sometimes you also have this weird kind of divvying up of friends, right? Like
that. Yeah, that's the part that intrigued feels like the wrong word, but
was curious
most about was the difference. Yeah, especially like at this party. It's just like, it's like, okay, so all these people celebrating that, if the relationship was long enough, these are all people who hung out with that person.
Yeah, even though here's what I discovered is that when I got divorced, a whole bunch of people came out of the woodworks and were like, I always liked you. I did not like him. So, I guess yeah. And of course, when we're together, they're never going to share that with me. Right. So, but I think we're getting away from the topic. We're talking about divorce, and I don't want to talk about divorce. I don't want to talk about my divorce, but I want to talk about our lessons.
Right? I'll tell you what happened was you brought in a personalized situation, and we
well, I did say we were going to do that. Now I'm moving to a different space now.
Which we're absolutely free to do.
Now we're coming back to this other place.
Yes.
So, and this other place is, what are some of the things that you can do to make sure that you learn from your relationships ending? And I think that, doing a post game around what took place can be really supportive. It can help in terms of post breakup growth. Right. It can also help us as we look forward to creating new relationships. I used to tell folks that if you don't grow from previous relationships, you're going to find that you are dating the same person with a different face over and over and over again. Right. And you've met those people, right? Where you're like, oh, wow, that's like the same person. Yeah. Why do you keep dating the same person? And part of it is because, like, I don't know, either that person hasn't changed. There's something that is holding them stuck. There's some kind of trauma that's holding them stuck. And it may just be that they actually haven't gone back to understand the lessons that they can learn from the ending of the relationship, not just what took place in the relationship, right? So I think the biggest thing for me, and the thing that I learned the most was that, well, I don't know if it's the biggest thing, but it's pretty far up there, which is that you cannot love someone into change, right? Folks have this idea that I'm going to love someone to the point that they will change behaviors that are not supportive or behaviors that are harmful. And unfortunately, love doesn't do that.
Right.
And it's not that you shouldn't love people that have challenges or that need to change. But we can't, I think I had to learn that I couldn't offer enough love that would be the catalyst for change.
Right.
And I think the hard thing about particularly working in therapy is that you learn that oftentimes people stay in the same vein. They stay on the same path until something comes along to shake them out of that path. And that's, for a lot of reasons. But that's why I think when we come to these places that are not fixed in our lives, meaning, I don't know, a breakup or a divorce, even though it's painful, it's actually a really magical and unusual time for most adults, right? Because for most adults, once we start on a path, things become more fixed, right? I have this job, I have this car, I have this mortgage, I have these kids, I have this thing. All these things that now dictate how we live our lives, to the point where typically, in order to change, there has to be some kind of catalyst. And often for human beings, that catalyst, unfortunately, is suffering. Right. So that when we are at our most vulnerable, we are in the place that is most painful, is actually the place that we have the most power to change.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. And so as much as I would love to say, like, oh no, I'm just going to love this person, give them all the good feelings until they change something, I think that's actually counter to how most human beings engage change. Right. Typically, there is some form of suffering, loss, or a major shift or catastrophe that then causes people to stop and reevaluate and have the space and capacity to actually create something different. The way I language that to folks is often like, there is no creation without destruction.
Right.
Right. So if I'm going to be building another building, I'm destroying something to put it in its place, whether that's another building or whether that's the ground that I have to dig up. But if
you live in Vegas, you absolutely know what they're talking about.
Right. Yeah. The irony is that when I'm at what feels like my worst place is the time where I actually have the most power. And that is true in relationship. And typically that's not when we are in a happy, loving place and I'm just going to love you into change.
Right.
Right. I think that it is really helpful in terms of, a couple things happen. The other thing I learned, and this was something that I learned through my own divorce, was that not all pain is bad pain.
Okay.
Right. Which is this weird thing, right?
You sound like somebody who works out.
Well, it is not that different from working out. In that, when you're working out, there is good pain and there is bad pain. Right. And like bad pain is something that is hurting me, it is injuring me, it's not supportive, something is misaligned, right? And that's maybe the pain of staying in a bad relationship. The good pain is that place that says, I'm going to go through something difficult in order to get to a better place, right? And like I would tell you, probably one of the hardest things that I had to learn about divorce was that I couldn't rely on hating the other person to get me through. Right?
Yeah, that's one thing I learned a long time ago, was hate is not sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable. And also, people are very complex. And even some of the worst folks who have done like horrendous things, you were in this relationship for a reason, right? And there were good times and there were good parts of this person and things that you enjoyed and things that you cared about and, spaces that you created together. I mean, there's a lot that goes into those kinds of long-term partnerships, right? Or even short-term partnerships. But that, even then, that I could do painful things and still love that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that love wasn't the reason to stay.
Right.
Right. So I guess that's another lesson, is that love isn't always enough.
Right.
That you can still love someone and start to recognize, for a variety of different reasons, that the relationship is not sustainable.
Yeah, I've always said the Beatles definitely got it wrong.
What'd they say? I don't know.
All you need is love.
Oh yeah, no, that's a lie.
That's a lie.
So don't listen to musicians.
don't take love advice from songwriters.
Yeah, don't take love advice from most poets, right? It's going to be a romanticized view of what love should be, not what love actually is. So yeah, I think another lesson was learning that I could still love the person and that love isn't always enough. I also think that it helped me to have a better understanding of what realistic relationship goals look like.
Okay.
I think I had a lot of unrealistic. Well, I often have a lot of unrealistic goals. Let's just put it out there. But when it came to relationship, I had a very romanticized view of what marriage would look like.
Okay. Right. Same.
I had a very romanticized view of, how my partner would be in that relationship, how I would be in that relationship, and anything that deviated from those like very clearly defined goals then felt like there was something wrong in my relationship. Right. And so I think it's really important when we go through a breakup to then look at like, what was it I actually wanted to get out of that experience? Did I have goals for this relationship? Were they realistic, right? Was I looking at someone who like didn't have any of the qualities or characteristics that I really wanted in a long-term partner, but I was going to try to get them to that place to become a long-term partner, right? I was very much a potential partner kind of person. I funded a lot of mixtapes back in the day. So,
you said that before.
I have, to my detriment, right? Because I could see the future. I could see the potential. I saw what you were seeing. I wanted to be on that ride with you. And I had to learn. That, I had to have more realistic relationship goals and that it wasn't enough to take on the goals of the other person.
Right.
That I had to have my own goals.
Also, thank you for helping me with my mixtape. Now I know when I come with my parody mixtape, I'm like, hey, baby.
Lesson learned, ladies and gentlemen. Lesson learned.
Oh, great. She learned a lesson before my mixtape.
That's right. Sorry, guys.
Timing.
No more mixtape. No more mixtapes getting funded, y'all. So having realistic relationship goals and actually going back and thinking, what did I want to have out of this relationship? Was it realistic? What I wanted versus what I was willing to put up with.
Right.
And also what the other person was willing to offer, right? I think sometimes, we think that if we pour enough into the relationship, that then the other person is also going to pour into that relationship. And, sometimes I'm wanting something from a person and they don't have it to offer.
Right.
Or they don't want to offer that thing that I want, whatever that might be. And I was very good for that when I was younger. I would just pine after these people that were completely unavailable and made it clear to me that they were unavailable. And that made me think that like, oh, that's my goal, right? Like I have to go win that person over. I have to show them and prove to them, right? This idea that I have to earn something.
Woo! Now you're playing in my lane. I'm saying that's when I was younger. That was very much the I have to show you that you're saying you don't, but you do.
But you do. You must because I do.
Yeah.
You just don't see it yet.
And I will help you see it. I will become the embodiment of the things you say you want and need, whatever. And then you have to because it's what is
it's in the stars. It's fated.
Yeah. Then I got older. I learned a great lesson, which was if somebody says they don't want to be in your life or they're not romantically attracted to you or they don't want to be with you in that way, believe them.
Yeah. There's the old YouTube video from TD Jakes. I don't know if y'all remember TD Jakes. He's still around, but like TD Jakes was big for a minute.
Yeah,
he still is.
But
not nearly the same.
Not as huge in popular culture as he was.
And he had this talk that was going around that I just like it settled into my heart and it just stayed there. And it was called The Gift of Goodbye. when someone gives you the gift of goodbye, let them go.
Yeah.
Let them leave. Right.
That reminds me. So I was, are you familiar with the movie Runaway Bride?
Kind of.
So there's a scene, this really great dialogue, really moment. And again, I was in the rom-coms for a little bit, whatever. But there's this moment when I think Julia Roberts is the main actress.
Right. It's Cameron Diaz or something.
And Cameron Diaz and the guy,
Rupert.
The girl.
Something Rupert.
Yeah, something like that. So the girl is running.
Yes.
He's chasing her. And then
Julia Dermot Roberts, Mulroney.
Yes.
That's who it was.
And then Julia Roberts was chasing him. And her gay bestie was like, baby, who's chasing you?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was very much the Julia Roberts of that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was constantly chasing people that did not want to get caught.
Yeah. And it's like that hit. Every now and then there are dialogues when, that hit home. Yeah. Baby, who's chasing you?
Yeah, and the thing that I figured out over time was that I had an emotional need that I was trying to get this other person to fulfill for me. Right. And I was trying to get this person to fulfill it because I didn't actually understand that I had the need. Right. I didn't understand the need. If I did, I would never have asked this person.
Right. Because they weren't capable.
Because they weren't capable. They didn't have it to offer. They didn't want to give it to me for whatever reason. Right. But it felt like almost like a victory. If this person could meet this emotional need, then it would mean that I was worthy of love. I was worth, the whatever they would have to get over to get to that place, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to learning that not everybody that you want to offer you something has it to give.
You know what? That reminds me of when you meet somebody, and that's probably because we've been traveling abroad. When you meet somebody who doesn't speak your language and you need something from that person, but they just don't speak your language. And so you speak your language slower
and louder. I'm so glad I don't do that anymore.
You're never going to get what you need.
Right.
You're never going to get what you need, no matter how you say it.
Yeah.
In the words you're using, that's never going to come.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The other thing I learned is that, the ending of relationships isn't a failure. And I used to think of it as a failure, right? Like I would meet somebody, I would decide that we were going to be together forever. We weren't together forever. And then it was like, why? What did I do wrong? How did I fail?
How did you flip that script?
Actually, I have for many years loved to listen to Dan Savage of the Savage Love podcast. And Dan Savage
Shout out to Savage Love podcast. You guys should sponsor us.
Shout out, definitely. I don't know if y'all sponsor people, but whatever.
Should have us on as guests.
Yeah, I just lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. I apologize. That's my podcast brain reaching out.
No, that's okay.
You were saying, I asked you how you flipped the script from thinking that you had wasted a bunch of time.
Yes.
It was a failure.
So something he said many years ago, which was that if you have decided in your life that there is one person that is going to be your forever person, and there's one relationship that's going to be your forever relationship, then every relationship that is not that will fail.
That is intense.
Right.
And very accurate.
But accurate, right? So if I'm looking for actual lifelong partnership, right, then if this is not my lifelong partner, if this is not a person that is compatible with me over time, then it should fail, and be glad that it should fail.
Right.
Because I don't want to walk through life with a partner that's not the right one for me.
Right.
Right. So, and I really I don't even remember how many years ago I heard that, and I thought, oh, okay, good. So actually that these things are failing is actually a good thing. It doesn't feel like a good thing, right?
Yeah. Failure doesn't feel good.
No, but then what I started to understand, especially coming into the relationship coaching space, right, is that sometimes relationship is just not supported, right? Either people don't have the internal resources to support the relationship. Sometimes they don't have the external resources to support the relationship, right? Like, I don't know, somebody has a gambling problem, Right. And, that starts to wreck the trust that has taken place between partners. Or someone is, living in a different location and the distance is too difficult to broach. And there's not a way to actually move through that. Sometimes folks have different core values that we just can't figure out how to make them match. But there are a lot of different reasons that relationships just aren't supported. And I have often talked about phases of relationship, and we should maybe do a whole topic about this. But
I think so.
But really briefly, relationships tend to go in cycles, at least in the way that I think about it, right? And the first cycle for me is attraction and infatuation, right? And that's when, you
see it from across the room.
Right. It's that chemical attraction. I'm all up in your face. You're in my face. I love the way you breathe. Your blinking is so sexy.
Right. I hate to see you go, but I love to watch you walk away.
I know. I've never seen anybody scratch their nose the way you scratch your nose. Right. Everything looks good through those rose-colored glasses because there's a really strong chemical attraction that's taking place. There's a really strong emotional attraction. There's the intrigue of learning a new person. There's the bonding of new experiences with this person and learning about this person.
Right.
And that's, infatuation. The next phase actually for healthy relationship is disillusionment. And it seems like a terrible thing to say, but actually for healthy partnerships over the long term, there has to be a sense of disillusionment. I have to start to understand who you are as a real person. And as a real person, that's all of your flaws.
Right.
That's the, you don't put away your dishes. You fart and it smells terrible. Right? We straighten you up like that for. But all those things, right, that make this person a real person, including the things that make it difficult for them to live with and for you to live with and to be in relationship with. And the thing about that is that we all have that. I mean, if you're right now listening to the sound of my voice and you think I'm the easy person to live with, you're the difficult person to live with.
You're the problem.
You are the person that is difficult to live with because you don't have an awareness of how difficult you are to live with, right? And it doesn't matter about whether you're an easygoing person or not an easygoing person.
Now, how many couples may be listening to this episode and I can just imagine the partner just did this. Oh, huh? So what makes me difficult to live with?
And you should actually have that conversation, right? You should know. We're talking about breakups as opposed to building a relationship. But just pro tip, guys, you want to know what makes you difficult to live with.
Well, we're talking about how breakups can, how you can make sure that the breakup wasn't a waste of time.
Yes.
And one of the ways to make sure it's not a waste of time is to learn from that. And then in your next relationship, have those kind of discussions that you didn't have before. Like, what makes me the annoying person?
Now here's the interesting thing, right? Is for most relationships, somebody told you. Somebody at some point has said it. This is what is irritating about you, or this is what's annoying about you. Like, for the most part, right? Now, after breakup, this is what's so interesting is after breakup, they don't care. Ain't nobody gonna tell you nothing about yourself after you've already broken up, right? Because there's no reason to tell you about yourself.
Only people who care is Hollywood.
Yep.
Because they always like to make movies about people who go back through their Rolodex to all their exes. And I know there's a movie about that. They go to all the exes to find out what they were doing wrong. Yeah,
it's not a bad idea. I don't know that I would suggest it. One, that's assuming that they have a clear idea of who you are now. And then the other is that, it's a skewed viewpoint, right? And just because they think it doesn't mean it's necessarily accurate.
Right.
But you should know those things that make you difficult to live with. I'm gonna just throw out there.
I know mine.
What's yours?
You ain't gotta say mine.
What is it?
I don't want to say it.
Okay, so we're gonna keep that.
I don't care.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have you guess.
You already
in the comments.
You already said it, but go ahead and guess in the comments.
Guess in the comments. What makes Big Sexy difficult to live with? I think I would have a different answer. I think I know what you're thinking, and I would have a different answer.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But now we've committed.
Now we've committed to guess folks guessing. So
you said it. Now we got to hold it. So
Yeah, there you go.
Too bad.
All right.
What makes Big Sexy difficult to live with?
Ooh, I'm gonna be just like a proper YouTuber. I'm not gonna read the comments.
Is it the laugh?
Don't read the comments and don't feed the people who want to tell you what you don't like about yourself.
Yeah, but I think it is important to get an understanding. The other part of that is to understand what's important. Like, again, getting back to what are things that are important to me in a relationship, right? If I was unhappy in this relationship, or if another person was unhappy in this relationship, because breakups happen when we're happy and when we're unhappy,
right?
What was it that created that emotional state? Right? What was it for me internally that created that emotional state of either happiness or unhappiness? Right? And that will start to lead to what are my values? What is important to me? And sometimes we tend to push past those things, like, oh, well, it's just that, I'm a neat person and this person's not a neat person. Well, no, that means you maybe value order and organization, and that's something that's important to you. And if it's important enough that it becomes a challenging relationship, well, that's maybe something to pay attention to, right? That's a key value for me. Not that I have to make it the primary value for future relationships, but I do have to understand that this is a key value for me.
And it's important. And so once you get past the attraction phase and you're into the disillusionment phase, you need to know if that dude leaves his towels on the floor.
Right. So that was stage 2, was disillusionment. Thank you for bringing me back on track. So first stage was attraction, intrigue, infatuation. The second stage is disillusionment. And this is where most relationships, if they're going to break, this is where they break.
Okay.
This is where they should break, right? Because I'm starting to get an idea of who you are and evaluating the relationship based on the reality.
Yeah,
right?
I think it hurts so much because you already went through the attraction, magical phase. And if this is all magical and wonderful, and I don't know how you get your sweat to drip like that, but it's amazing. When you get to disillusionment, you start to look back, but they were so amazing. What
you get the flip side of those wonderful traits, right? So all those great traits that I loved about you, I now see the flip side, and we all got a flip side, right? Where the thing that makes me super attractive is also the thing that in the right circumstances makes it difficult for me to live with me, right? And then if you get past disillusionment, you come to a space that we call mature love.
Okay.
And that is where I'm not falling in love with you, right? Which indicates that there is a loss of control, there is an inevitability, right? But that I am choosing to walk with you in love.
Okay.
In which, like, I'm looking at you as you are, and I'm coming to a place of acceptance of both the wonderful things I love about you, as well as those things that I would prefer. I'm choosing my words very carefully, ladies and gentlemen. I would prefer be different, right? Or that are, simply flaws and, idiosyncrasies that we all hold, right? And the beauty of that across long-term partnership is that we don't just go through that cycle once. That's just not what it is. Like, I'm in infatuation, and then we have in disillusionment, and then we're in mature love, and then we just kicking it in mature love for the rest of our lives, right? Circumstances and people tend to bring the opportunities for us to then go back to infatuation, right? And it's a different kind of infatuation, but I think Esther Perel, who is a famed marriage and family therapist, says that we don't get a new partner, but I get to see my partner with new eyes. And I start to have different and deeper appreciation in which I can, again, be infatuated with my partner in different aspects of my partner. Right. And then guess what? We walk right back through disillusionment. And then we come back to mature love, back to infatuation, back to disillusionment.
So it's a cycle.
It is an ongoing cycle, right? And
you don't ever just reach a point of this is it. Okay, we're locked.
No. And that's the other thing that I learned from breakups, which is that no matter how much you want to fight it, people will change.
Yeah.
We will change. Your partner will change. There is no way to avoid people changing.
Right.
And that's why we get to have these beautiful cycles of relationship in which, like, each new phase brings new engagement in the relationship, right? Like nobody builds something that's going to ride them out for, the next 30 or 40 years without significant renovation.
Right.
Right. And this is the process of, at least in my experience, it's been the process of renovation for relationships that stay together. And that when they break up, it's because they are walking through this process and they should not continue further in the process.
Right.
Right. So they've moved to disillusionment, and that is the stress test for the relationship.
Now, is there any validity to, I probably could have asked this last episode, but that's fine. The concept of the 7-year time cycle, people call it the 7-year itch, or the 7-year.
Yeah, it's been my experience that people think the honeymoon phase only lasts for the first 2 years or so, but it really does last for about 5 to 7 years. Because we think that when somebody does something annoying, then I'm out of the honeymoon phase. That's not the case.
Oh, that was it.
That was it. We had a fight. We're out of the
honeymoon phase. Here we are, back in real life now. Everything this person does annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah. No, and I do think that there is some validity to that we stay in the honeymoon phase for much longer than we give ourselves credit for, where I am overlooking, right, a lot of those key areas because, like, I don't know, this is still like pretty good and we're doing okay and life is good, and it's not something that's like super over stressful and etc. So I do think that that's the case. I also think that we get this idea, like when we look at kids, we see really distinct life phases, right? There's a toddler, and then there's like a kindergartner, and then there's like an elementary, and then middle school, and then high school, and they're very clearly defined.
Right.
And we, for some reason, forget that we continue to grow in stages, right? So life stages across the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s bring different experiences as we grow and mature, and we continue to go through those phases, right? And like those are more spread out as we become older, right? Like it's a really short line between, a toddler and an elementary school kid, right?
Right.
But
elementary school kid versus the teenager.
Right? It's a pretty short span. But as we get older, we still move through different life phases, right? And because we are moving through different life phases, we are changing, and therefore our relationships are changing. Right. So the 7-year itch is not necessarily that the relationship gets 7 years old and suddenly I got to scratch something. But that, in about every 7 to 10 years, we move into a different life phase. Right. So if I get married at, say, 24, right, by the time I hit 32, I'll be in a different life stage. Right. And I'll have different concerns, different needs. And my relationship will then necessarily need to be evaluated from that viewpoint. 7 years beyond that, I'm entering my 40s.
Hopeful that it still follows. That you're like, no, this is still good. This is still good. But I figure because always, that's when things happen for like people who break up after like 20 some odd years of marriage, or 27 years, like, man, you made it that long. What happened? But things change.
Well, things change. And the other thing that I think I learned as well from breakups, and particularly from divorce, but from all breakups really, is that longevity is a good goal, but it's not the only goal. Right. And so I think that when people think about relationships, the measure of success is that y'all been together for 30 years, right? Not that y'all been miserable for 30 years. Right. And just because you have stayed together doesn't mean that you have then had a successful relationship, right?
Just means you're stubborn.
It just means that like you've got, well, not necessarily stubborn, but the other thing is that people choose other reasons to stay in a relationship other than happiness, right? Sometimes people will choose children, and they're perfectly valid, by the way. Like, I hear people say all the time, like, why would I stay together just for the children? Well, it's a valid reason. It's actually a really great reason to stay together. It's not a choice that I would necessarily make, but I can't say that that is an invalid reason to stay married to another person, right? That's actually a really good reason that someone would want to do that, right? And for a variety of different reasons. So folks have different measures for what they want out of a relationship. But whatever that is, I would tell you that longevity is a good it's a good outcome, but I don't think it's necessarily a goal.
Right.
If that makes sense. Now, it's not the only goal.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
How many breakups have you been through?
In my whole life?
And I don't mean like, I mean like you were in a relationship.
Yeah.
And then it ended. And one of you can't see each other no more.
Well, yeah, that is a tricky question because I told you that I would pine after people that were unavailable.
Right, but that you weren't in a relationship with
them. I was not in a relationship with them. So that would leave like these wide spaces where I was not in a relationship with anybody, but I desperately wanted to be.
Right.
So let me think about this. Starting at how old?
Well, how old were you when you had your first boyfriend?
Well, how do we define?
They said, "I am your boyfriend," and you said, "I am your girlfriend," and then you kissed.
First of all, yeah, okay. So first partner, let's say that.
Yes. Right. I'm sorry. Yeah. First partner.
Well, I mean, I guess I started dating in high school.
Okay.
And
because technically, however many relationships you had from then to right now. Mm-hmm. Is that number of breakups minus one.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'd have to count. Do I have to count right now?
No.
Yeah,
we'll come
Let me
back
think about this. Let's see. Because high school, because I dated a lot of people in high school. I mean, I dated a lot of people in high school. I was very popular.
Okay.
I really wasn't. I was not popular, but I did date a lot of people. But I was not a popular person in high school.
Now, in your breakups, were you the one normally to break it off, or
almost never? Almost never. No, okay. I was one of those folks that when I was younger, I desperately wanted to be in love. I loved the idea of love. It seemed like this magical space that was going to open up like so much. It was going to improve my life so much.
Right.
And, so almost, I think there was maybe two people that I was actively like, no. And even then, like one person, it's so funny. I'm not going to say this person's name because I'm still connected to this person on Facebook or whatever.
Right.
But one person, I again was one of those like unavailable people I desperately wanted to date in high school, graduated college. This person asked me out. I was so excited. And then I found out he was married and had 2 kids.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I got over it.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
I got over it though.
That's the funny thing.
But that was one of those like, oh, I'm cutting this off today.
I love podcast space when you get to talk about your history, but you're trying to keep the names out of it. But when you start mentioning situations, you know who you are. You know who you are.
And again, like, I don't know. I think the beauty of this particular life stage that we are in is that you start to have an understanding that everybody was young. Everybody was doing stupid stuff.
Right.
Everybody was making all kinds of relationship mistakes. I don't hold any of that against folks. At this point, I've grown past these things. But like, that was a really like ouch.
Yeah.
Like ouch.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I found that out at the very beginning stages of dating. But like, ouch.
Right.
So
right. That's kind of a betrayal of circumstance.
Yeah.
So would you like to hear questions from our listeners?
I would. I'd love to hear a question from our listeners.
Well, I was going to ask this question because it kind of fit with our topic. It was from an anonymous listener, and they said, "What did you learn from your worst heartbreak?" Mm-hmm. But we kind of went over that already.
Yeah.
That's
the name of the podcast.
That's the name of the episode. Right. So I went and I found one from our friend Kiara.
Okay.
Who a friend of ours that we met on Virgin Voyages on a cruise ship. And thank you very much, Kiara, for sending the question. This said, can you also rely on the other person's potential to build a long-lasting relationship, or just stick to the facts and current behavior?
Ooh, okay, so this is interesting because I told you I was funding mixtapes,
right? So you were really relying on other people's potential.
I was relying a lot on potential. Here's the way that I would answer that question. I think that the beauty of being human is that we have the ability to live in several different dimensions at once.
Okay,
and that means that our relationships live in several different dimensions at once.
How do you mean?
So we live in a past, that informs how we behave, our narrative, what I think about the world, how I engage with you. Right. We have our present, which is what is happening for us right now, how we are connecting, the things that we're learning, the way we are understanding how to be with one another. Relationships also have a future, which I like to language to my coaching folks as our vision. What is the vision for our future? And in order to have healthy relationship, we do have to have a shared vision of future, right? So that if, your vision of future is that, we're sticking at home and I want to be right down the street from the farm that I grew up in, grew up on. And my vision of the future is that I want to be out and traveling the world. Well, we can't have that same.
We can't walk down that path.
We can't walk down that path together, right? Someone is going to be losing something in that. So when we analyze things, we tend to break them up into pieces and then look at the pieces. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to relationships, I actually have to look at the whole. I have to look at their past. I have to look at my past. I have to look at what's happening now. And I have to understand what the shared vision of our future looks like, right? Like we can't plan the future. We can't know what that future is going to be, but we should have some idea.
Right.
And, for you and I, that was actually one of the places that, almost was our disillusionment, right? Because we had very different ideas of what our shared future would look like.
Right.
And we had to get to a place where we could have a shared vision before we could commit to long-term partnership.
Yeah.
So I love that question. Thank you so much, Shiara. I think that's a wonderful question. And the answer is I wouldn't rely on either one. Right. I would actually rely on both plus a third, right?
Right.
My past, our present, and our shared vision of our future.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Kiara, for sending in that question. Listeners, if you have a question about love or relationships that you would like us to address, or a topic you want to hear us talk about, or a story within a topic that you heard, we'd love to hear from you.
100.
You can shoot us an email at rainbowdreamcatchertlp. That stands for The Love Podcast. At gmail.com. You can also hit us up on Instagram at Rainbow Dreamcatcher, The Love Pod. Shoot us a message there. And we'd love to hear from you. If you're on our YouTube channel, shoot us comments down below.
Yep.
You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Rainbow Dreamcatcher, The Love Podcast.
And all the places, every place you can, please subscribe, like, comment. It really is helpful to us. It's a small thing to do, but it's something that's really important for us, and it really is very, very helpful for us. So if you wouldn't mind taking that extra step, liking, sharing, commenting, and please keep those questions coming. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it, and how much I love actually sitting down and really thinking through some of these things.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. So thank you guys very much for listening. Tune in. We drop a new episode every Friday. So tell your friends about us. Tell your family members about us. Tell your family's friends and your friends' family.
Tell your wife. Tell your kids.
Tell your wife. Tell your kids. Don't hide nothing from them.
Don't hide nothing.
Let them know the Rainbow. Woo, that's a dated reference.
Thanks.
I'm laughing because I got it. I'm like, I got it. Yeah. And we look forward to hearing from you then. But until then, we are
Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love Podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye.